My name is Vivian Carter. I'm 32 years old. And until last month, I believed I had married into the kind of quiet, respectable suburban family people spend their whole lives searching for. Ethan was warm, dependable, the kind of husband who never raised his voice, and his mother, Magdalena, carried herself with the gentle grace of a retired nurse who had seen enough of life to cherish peace. And yet, even in that perfectly polite household, I always felt like the outsider, the one who didn't quite fit the mold, the one Magdalena watched a little too closely, smiled at a little too sweetly. I kept telling myself it was just in my head until the night I realized her kindness tasted bitter. And that was the night everything in my life began to unravel. The tea was already steeping when I got home. It always was. Magdalena never missed an evening. "Welcome back, sweetheart," she said from the kitchen. "Rough day." I nodded, pulling off my coat, shoes the way to the office. I hadn't even reached for the cup when she slid it across the counter with her usual gentleness. Chamomile, always chamomile. With a drizzle of lavender honey she made herself. The cup was warm. So was the smile. So was the trap. I took one sip. Stopped. There it was again. That subtle, wrong kind of bitter. Like metal soaked in flower water. She was watching. "I added something new," she said lightly. "Lemon balm. Helps with stress." My stomach turned. Magdalena always knew when to lean in, how to make caring feel like control. It wasn't overt. It was never overt. I smiled. "Tastes great." 28 minutes later, I was on the couch, disoriented, like someone had rewired the air. The lights seemed dimmer. My thoughts dragged through molasses. I don't remember falling asleep, but I do remember waking up. The rug felt wrong under my cheek. Cold. I was on the floor. My purse was open. My phone gone. A strange emptiness lodged behind my ribs. My keys turned up in the bathroom cabinet. My wallet on the windowsill. My laptop, which I left open, was now closed and warm, as if it had just been used. I didn't confront Ethan. He'd just gotten home. Blamed the cat. We didn't own a cat. Cassie was the first person I told. She stared at me over her espresso, like I'd grown a second head. "She's drugging you," she said flatly. "How long has this been going on?" "I don't know." "You need proof." She tapped her temple. Record her. Dump the tea. Fake sleep. Catch her in the act. "You sound like you've done this before." Her eyes darkened. "I have." That night I didn't touch the tea. I let it cool on the nightstand, poured it into the soil of the ficus in the corner, then refilled the cup with warm water and honey, stirred it the same way, took it to the couch and pretended to sip. Magdalena was reading in the armchair. Her eyes flicked up. "You've always been such a good girl," she said softly. "Ethan needed someone like you." I didn't respond, just smiled, weak and sleepy. I gave her what she wanted. Then I excused myself and went to bed early, left the door cracked just enough. Slipped in under the blankets. Counted the seconds. My phone recorded. My chest barely moved. My breath slow and even. Silence. Then a creak. A breath not mine. And Magdalena's voice, soft as silk. "She's out," she whispered. A pause. Just long enough to freeze my blood. Just like the others. The creak didn't come from the hallway. It came from inside the room. My breath stopped mid-chest. Muscles locked. I stayed still, dead still, as her shadow fell across the doorway. Magdalena entered barefoot. Slow steps. Robe brushing the floor. Her silhouette backlit by the hallway lamp, like something cut from a softer life. a lie in fabric form. She paused near the bed. I kept my eyes closed. My lashes twitched. She didn't notice. She leaned in close. The scent of lavender clung to her like static. She hovered long enough to feel her breath on my cheek. Then, a fingertip slid across my temple, then another across my neck. I almost flinched. Almost. She stepped back. Floorboard shifted. She crossed the room. The corner near the dresser. A rug pulled aside. Soft scrape of wood. My ears locked on every sound. Each tick of the clock in the hallway felt weaponized. She was kneeling. Something clicked. A thud. Hollow. I'd walked across that part of the room 1,000 times. Never noticed anything strange. But now she was lifting a section of the floor. Underneath, metal. The soft sound of hinges. My heart wasn't beating anymore, it was sprinting. She pulled something out. A box. A steel lockbox. She placed it on the bed. My bed. Her hands worked quickly. She opened it without a key. Inside, papers. Cash. A phone. Passports. Too many passports. I shifted my body just enough to catch a sliver of her reflection in the vanity mirror. Her face was changed. Not soft. Not caring. Focused. Mechanical. She pulled one of the passports. Flipped it open. My face. My photo. But the name wasn't mine. Clara Whitfield. I knew that name. Local news. 2 years ago. Woman vanished. No trace. No foul play. Just gone. Portland. She pulled a second photo from the box. Same woman. Clara. But dead-eyed. A DMV shot. Paper clipped to a medical record. Cause of death. Undetermined. Magdalena lifted her phone. Spoke low, fast. She's almost ready. Thursday, like we planned. Her credit's clean. I've got her access codes, and her security questions are updated. Silence. Then, just like the last one, but cleaner. I swallowed air. It stuck halfway. A pressure started building behind my eyes. My limbs itched with adrenaline. Her voice again, quieter now. I've erased the backups. Bank access digital logins. Her employer thinks she's taking time off. It's all mapped. Final handoff Thursday. Then I'll start the protocol. Protocol? Handoff? She closed the box. Locked it. Stood. I dropped my eyes. Rolled slightly in bed. A sleep twitch natural, I hoped. She froze. I counted 1, 2, 3. Then footsteps retreating. The rug slid back into place. The door clicked shut. Silence. Not peace. I lay there, afraid to breathe loud enough to be heard. Minutes passed. I sat up, shaking. Every nerve screamed to get out. Run. Scream. Tear open Ethan's secrets with my bare hands. But I didn't. I opened the drawer. Pulled out the micro-recorder I'd hidden earlier. Still blinking. Still live. Cassie would know what to do. I dressed in silence. Sweats. No shoes. I crept down the hall to the kitchen. Her teacup still on the counter. The same cup I used. I bagged it in a freezer bag. For testing. Just like Cassie told me. I kept repeating her voice in my head. Truth doesn't scream. It drips. And if you're patient, it floods. Back in the bedroom, I took one last look at the corner rug. I knew what I saw. It was real. No dream. No fantasy. Just a trap waiting to snap shut. I lifted the rug and saw the faint seam of the hatch. Barely visible. A steel latch. Fingerprint scuffed. Not new. Well used. I didn't open it. Not yet. Instead, I opened my laptop. Googled Clara Whitfield. The results lit up. 27. Marketing associate. Disappeared after a trip to Vancouver. Left behind a fiancé. No known enemies. Sounded perfect. Too perfect. The last line of the article chilled me more than anything Magdalena said. Police have no leads. It's as if Clara vanished into thin air. No, she didn't vanish. She was replaced. If I blinked 1 second too soon, I knew I wouldn't wake up again. Cassie answered on the first ring. "You have 1 minute," I whispered. "She's done it before, and she's going to do it again." I told her everything. About the fake passport, the files, the whispered call. "Clara, you need to get out," she said. "Not tomorrow. Tonight. I need proof first." Vivian. She's not just drugging me. She's erasing me. Silence. Then I know someone. He used to work cybercrime for state. He'll know how to make this stick. But we move fast. Jonas was 26, too smart, and had a resting smirk that made you want to punch him or trust him. Sometimes both. We met at a gas station 5 exits down. Cassie drove. I didn't ask how she knew Jonas. I didn't care. He listened to the recording, said nothing, then opened his laptop. She's using a private cloud to store aliases. If we access her device, we can grab the encryption key. Then we expose the whole ring. What if she wipes it? He gave me a look. She won't. She's too proud. He tapped a key. The screen split into text on one side, video code on the other. Every sociopath thinks they're smarter than the system, he said. That's their first mistake. By the time we got back to the house, it was almost 3 a.m. The porch light was off. No car in the driveway. I slipped in the back door, my hands shaking. The house smelled like cinnamon and bleach. Cassie was already placing the pin cameras. One in the bookshelf, one under the hallway mirror, one in the vent above the bed. Jonas handed me a mic. "Clip it inside your pajama collar. You speak, we hear." I nodded. I wasn't ready. But the thing about fear is, it doesn't wait for you to be ready. It just arrives, like a train you either board or get hit by. Thursday. Dinner was pot roast. Magdalena's specialty. Ethan sat beside me, quiet. Too quiet. He didn't ask how work was. He didn't mention my project. He just kept slicing his meat into tiny, even squares. "I added valerian root tonight," Magdalena said cheerfully, setting the teacup before me. "It'll help you sleep through anything." I smiled. "Thank you." I drank, just enough to let it show on my face. After 20 minutes, my limbs felt heavy, but not from the tea. From dread. I excused myself, crawled under the covers, heart pounding. Jonas whispered through the mic, audio live. "All feeds green." I closed my eyes and waited. 1:41 a.m. Creak. Door opening. Soft steps. Magdalena entered. She wasn't alone. Ethan. His socks dragged slightly on the wood. His breathing was calm. Familiar. Then the sound that shattered me. A click. The bedroom lock. From the inside, Jonas's voice crackled in my ear. "She's in." Ethan's, "Wait. Is he locking the door?" "Cassie, do not move. Do not react." I didn't. Magdalena sat on the edge of the bed. Ethan stood by the dresser. The same rug. The same hidden floor. He knelt, lifted the panel, just like her, then opened a leather case, placed it beside my arm. I kept my breath shallow, slow. The case opened. Inside, a syringe. Clear liquid. I heard it. The cap snapping off. Cassie, Jonas, go. Send the signal. Jonas, hold on. Camera 3 cutting out. We're losing the vent cam. Magdalena leaned close. She's perfect, she said. The face, the mannerisms. Better than Clara. Ethan's voice, low, cracked. She's not stupid, Mom. She's starting to suspect. A pause. Then Magdalena, calm. That's why tonight is necessary. Cassie screamed into the comm. Now, Jonas, go. Jonas swore. Feeds crashing. Vent camera just blacked out. Wait, shit, the backup's looping. My eyes opened just a sliver. Enough to see Ethan. Smiling. You always had trouble sleeping, Viv, he said softly. But not anymore. The syringe came closer. The light above blurred. Then went dark. I came back to myself in pieces. First sound, then pain, then the cold. Concrete under my cheek. Damp, metallic, abasement. My wrists burned where something bit into them. Zip ties. My throat tasted like iron and chemicals. My head throbbed in waves. I tried to move. Couldn't. Footsteps above me creaked through old beams. Voices. Not whispers this time. Arguments. Ethan's first. Sharp. Rushed. You used too much. She wasn't supposed to drop that fast. Then Magdalena. Calm, chilling. Better fast than noisy. My pulse stuttered. I forced my eyes to open. Dim light. Bare bulb. No windows. A folding table. A plastic tarp. A metal sink. I wasn't in my house. I was in their plan. I shifted my wrist again. The zip tie dug deeper. Pain flared up my arm. Good. Pain meant I was awake. Somewhere above me, a door slammed. Cut scene. The space hummed with silence again. I breathed shallow breaths. Counted. Not for calm, just to stay conscious. My father once told me, if you don't know where you are, memorize the exits. If you can't see an exit, create one. I scanned the room. No stairs. No obvious door. Just a small square panel high on the far wall ventilation. Too high to reach. Useless for now. I pulled my wrists again, twisting them until skin split. The sting jolted me harder awake. Another sound. The basement door opened. Magdalena came down the steps slowly, each footfall measured. She carried the leather case, the same one that held the syringe. But now it held something else. A tablet, glowing, numbers scrolling across it. She didn't notice me stirring. She placed the case on the table, whispered to herself. Last transfer goes through at 4 p.m. clean. Seamless. A perfect identity. She tapped the screen. My name popped up. Or rather, Clara Whitfield did. I froze. My breath jammed in my throat. She stared at the screen like looking at a painting she adored. You really were the best match, Vivian, she murmured. I knew it the moment Ethan brought you home. My vision blurred with rage, then sharpened. Why? I croaked. Her head snapped toward me. So did her smile. Awake already? Resilient. Clara wasn't. My stomach dropped. I tested the zip ties again. They didn't budge. You killed her. My voice was barely sound. No, she said. I perfected her. Her face lived on better than her choices ever did. Her logic hit me like ice water. Twisted. Reverent. She stepped closer. And now you will too. Cut scene. The basement door opened again. Ethan's footsteps. Hesitant. torn. He wouldn't look at me. "Don't drag this out," Magdalena hissed. "The buyer wants the profile activated before the market closes." Buyer. Market. I wasn't a person. I was a commodity. Ethan rubbed his forehead. "She was my wife." "She was your mistake." His silence was the worst thing I'd ever heard. Magdalena shoved the tablet at him. "Sign the final authorization. You already transferred the property. This is the last step." Property transfer. The house. My inheritance. Everything my mother left me after she died. I remembered Ethan bringing home paperwork last month. Said it was about updating our homeowner's insurance. Said, "Just sign here, Viv." I didn't read it carefully. I never imagined. Cut scene. Jonas downloaded my entire digital footprint 2 days ago. He said something then that came back now, sharp and sudden. Data is just identity wearing a coat. Strip it, and anyone can become you. Ethan took the tablet with shaking hands. Logged in. The name on the authorization form wasn't mine. It was his. He wasn't forging my identity on the documents. He was giving consent as a spouse to release marital assets. And under Oregon law, he could, if those assets appeared jointly shared. He'd set this up months ago. My throat tightened. "How long, Ethan?" Silence. "How long have you known?" He still didn't look at me. "Since before we got married," Magdalena answered for him. He understood the vision. The vision. The word made bile rise in my throat. Ethan finally faced me. His eyes were empty. "I didn't want it to be this way." "But you didn't stop it." His jaw clenched. A tear slid down. But that didn't matter. Tears are cheap. Actions are currency. Magdalena snatched the tablet back. "Enough. Time is almost up." She reached into the leather case again. The syringe. A new vial, labeled with tiny printed text. I read it upside down. Midazolam. A sedative, strong enough to erase hours, or consciousness, or life. Magdalena approached. "You won't feel a thing," she said gently. "People fear death, but it's just a door. Some deserve to walk through without knowing." I pressed my heels into the concrete. My wrists burned. My muscles braced. Ethan moved beside her. My heart snapped like a stick. Something inside me turned sharp. "I loved you," I said. He swallowed. "I know." "And you sold me." He flinched. Magdalena lifted the syringe. "Hold her." He stepped forward. The basement light flickered. A hum from somewhere above powered down. Then up. Magdalena froze. "What was that?" Ethan whispered. Another flicker. Then a loud metallic clang. Something slammed upstairs. Footsteps. Multiple. Heavy. Magdalena paled. No. No, this wasn't supposed to. Ethan ran to the stairs. Magdalena spun toward the table, reached for the tablet. I braced myself, ready for anything. Then came the voice through the ceiling, loud, sharp, and unmistakably official. "Police! Step away from the victim!" Magdalena's scream ripped through the basement, but mine never left my throat, because as the light stuttered one final time I saw it, Ethan tossing the tablet into the sink, smashing it, drowning the evidence, trying to wipe the last digital trace of the woman I used to be. And he wasn't running toward the police. He was running toward me. The last thing I saw before everything went black was Ethan smiling as he reached for my wrist. I woke with a jolt, gasping, choking on air that felt too cold, too thin, too unfinished. Darkness pressed against my face. A single bulb flickered overhead. The zip ties were gone, but my wrists throbbed with raw, burning marks. My legs were free. My throat tasted like chemicals. They moved me, and they expected me to stay unconscious longer. Good. The first rule of surviving captivity is simple. Let the enemy believe you're weaker than you are. A metallic clang echoed upstairs. Voices bled through the floorboards, muted but frantic. I crawled toward the wall, palms sliding across cold cement. No windows, no stairs this time, just a locked steel door at the top of a ladder bolted into the wall. And beside me, something glinting. A nail, rusted, bent, but sharp enough. I grabbed it. Cut scene. Footsteps. Fast ones. Ethan's voice, jagged with panic. She woke up too soon. What if she heard? Magdalena cut him off. It doesn't matter. The timeline doesn't change. We finished the transfer. The buyer is waiting. Buyer. The word stabbed deeper than the nail in my hand. I pressed myself against the wall, forcing my pulse to quiet. An old quote flashed through my mind. One Cassie once said while we were drunk off cheap wine, "People don't show you who they are with lies, they show you with patterns." And the pattern was crystal clear now. I was never family. I was inventory. A sudden buzz vibrated against the cement. Machinery. Something electronic. Then the steel door at the top of the ladder unlocked with a heavy click. I froze. The door didn't open, which meant the lock was automated, which meant someone somewhere had remote access. Cassie? Jonas? Or them? Cut scene. The voices upstairs sharpened. "It's uploaded," Magdalena said breathlessly. Her banking credentials, health records, biometric templates, all mapped and synced. Biometric. They hadn't just stolen my name. They'd stolen my body. A surge of nausea hit me, so hard I had to swallow it down. Ethan whispered, "What about the death certificate?" "Printing now." Her voice was almost pleased. "She'll die in a car fire before sundown. Clean. Tragic. No remains to autopsy." My lungs went tight. Car fire. No remains. I wasn't meant to disappear. I was meant to be wiped. I crouched lower, trying to quiet the tremor in my breath. "Think," I whispered to myself. "Think or die." The nail scraped lightly against my palm. A reminder I wasn't powerless. I crawled toward the ladder. My legs shook as I climbed, slowly, silently counting each rung. At the top, I pressed my ear to the steel. A thump from inside the door, like someone bumping it. Then, a faint vibration. A message ping. Someone's phone. And then, Cassie's voice, muffled, but unmistakable. "I swear to God, Ethan, if you don't step back, I will put you on the ground myself." Hope stabbed through me, so sharply it almost hurt. Cassie found me, which meant I shoved against the steel door. It didn't budge. I tried again, shoulder first. Locked from the outside. I slid down a rung, forcing myself to breathe. My pulse thundered through my fingers. Cut scene. The shouting upstairs sharpened. "Magdalena, where's her phone? Where is it?" "Ethan, I destroyed the tablet. It doesn't matter." "Cassie, it matters to me." A crash. A chair hitting the floor. Then another voice, deep, calm, commanding. "Detective Marisol Vega. Hands where I can see them. Now." A slam. Ethan grunted. Then Magdalena running. Her footsteps thundered across the ceiling above me, toward the hall. toward an exit. I climbed the ladder again, pressing my shoulder to the metal. "Cassie!" I shouted. "I'm here. Downstairs." The steel door jolted as someone slammed into it from the outside. "Viv!" Cassie shouted. "Move back!" I slid down the ladder just as the door's lock clicked. Another. Then a boom of wood and metal as the police battering ram crashed into the door from the hallway side. The steel buckled. A second hit. Screws screamed. The door exploded inward as it tore off its hinge, crashing to the basement floor inches from my feet. Cassie vaulted inside first, her hair wild, her face white with terror. "Vivian, Jesus!" Strong arms grabbed me, hers or Marisol's, I didn't know. My knees gave out. She caught me before I hit the concrete. "You're safe," Cassie whispered. But she said it too soon, because behind her, behind the police, Ethan broke free from an officer's grip, his face twisted, desperate, wild. "Vivian, wait." He lunged, straight at me. Marisol moved fast, but not fast enough. Ethan's fingers brushed my wrist. That familiar touch, that familiar lie. My stomach dropped. Cut scene. Cassie shoved me aside. Ethan stumbled. Officers piled on him, dragging him down, shouting commands he didn't follow. Magdalena was nowhere in sight. Cassie whispered they didn't catch her. She ran. Of course she did. Monsters always know where the shadows are. I leaned against the wall, breath shaking as everything around me dissolved into sirens, footsteps, and the echo of Ethan screaming my name as they cuffed him. He wasn't screaming for forgiveness. He was screaming because he lost what he thought he owned. But none of that mattered, because as Marisol lifted me to my feet, her face drained to ash. "What?" I rasped. She held up her phone. On the screen, a transfer confirmation. My bank, my inheritance, my name, everything I owned. Gone. I stared at the screen as the world around me blurred. "She didn't just take my identity," I whispered. "She took my life." She wasn't planning to kill me. She was planning to replace me. The world didn't end in a blaze or an explosion or the crack of a gunshot. It ended quietly inside a sterile interview room at the Multnomah County Justice Center, when Detective Vega slid a folder toward me and said, "We found where she went." Magdalena, my mother-in-law, the architect of every nightmare. I opened the folder with hands that still shook. Photos, security footage, a timestamp, a gas station off I-84 near Hood River. She'd left Portland 36 minutes before the police raided the basement. 36 minutes. A lifetime. Cut scene. Your accounts. Vega said, "We traced the transfer. Offshore. Multiple layers. She's smart." The word tasted bitter. Smart. Like it was a compliment. I pushed the folder away. I don't care about the money. I care about stopping her. Cassie leaned forward, voice low. "We will. But right now, you need to breathe." I didn't know how. Breathing felt like a luxury for people whose lives hadn't been dismantled by someone who smiled while putting honey in their tea. A quote drifted through my mind, one my father used to say, "Danger doesn't come from strangers. It comes from the ones who know the way to your door." Magdalena didn't just know the way. She had a key. Cut scene. The next 48 hours blurred into a carousel of interviews, affidavits, frozen meals, and a police escort shadowing my every step. Ethan was booked without bail. His mugshot hit the news by morning, but not hers. No picture, no name released. No arrest warrant. Not yet. Why aren't you going after her publicly? I demanded. Vega exhaled. Because she's more dangerous in the shadows. Right now, we stay quiet until we understand the entire network she's tied to. Network. That word cut colder than any Kansas winter I grew up in. This wasn't a family feud. It was a system. Cut scene. On the third day, I returned to my house for the first time, with 2 officers and Cassie flanking me. The moment the door unlocked, the air inside felt wrong, like something was missing. Then I realized what. Everything. Drawers half open. Cabinets emptied. Safe ripped from the closet wall. Documents gone. Jewelry gone. Electronics gone. A clean sweep. Professional. Fast. Vega crouched beside my empty jewelry box. This wasn't Ethan, she murmured. This is her. Cassie whispered. She came back. No forced entry. No broken windows. Magdalena still had a key. My stomach twisted. I stepped into the living room and froze. On the coffee table sat a cup. My favorite ceramic mug. Clean, dry, and next to it, a single chamomile tea bag. Not opened, just placed there, waiting. Cassie's voice cracked. Viv, don't touch it. I backed away until my shoulders hit the wall. My breath came shallow and fast. She was in here, I whispered, while we were gone, while I was giving my statement. The house suddenly felt too small, too tight, too alive with things unseen. Cut scene. That night, I stayed at Cassie's apartment. She gave me her bed and curled up on the couch like it was nothing. But I didn't sleep. I kept the lamp on. I kept scanning the hallway. I kept hearing Magdalena's voice. She'll never know. At dawn, Vega called. We found something. Cut scene. The address was an abandoned orchard west of Troutdale. Her car was found idling near the tree line. No sign of her, just footprints leading into the brush. And halfway down the trail, a torn page from a planner. My name written in looping cursive. Vivian Carter. DOB. SSN. Blood type. Everything she needed to walk into my life. Vega approached me slowly. She's building a new identity. Yours. She started the process 2 weeks ago. I blinked. Twice. She was already planning to replace me? Yes. And Ethan knew? Vega hesitated, then nodded. Something shattered inside me, not loud, not dramatic. Just a clean internal break, the kind you don't feel until you try to stand on it. Cut scene. Days stretched, then weeks. Federal warrants were issued. Bank freezes. Asset recovery. Identity reinstatement. A mountain of paperwork that felt like stitching myself back together one bureaucratic thread at a time. But Magdalena? Gone. Not a trace. Like she dissolved into the Columbia River gorge and let the wind swallow her name. Cut scene. 6 months later, I stood in a downtown Portland courthouse, hands clasped, as the judge finalized my divorce from Ethan. The gavel cracked softly, more mercy than punishment, and just like that, I was free. But freedom is a strange thing. You can hold it in your hands and still feel the shadow of the cage. Afterward, Cassie and I walked to the waterfront. The sky was washed in a pale winter gold, the kind that makes everything look cleaner than it is. You know, Cassie said, kicking at a stone, someone once told me the hardest part of surviving isn't the danger. It's choosing who you want to be after. I smiled faintly. Maybe that's the point. You get to choose. A distant boat horn echoed across the river. Life, loud, messy, indifferent, kept moving. For the first time in a long time, I let myself move with it. Cut scene. 3 months later, I started a job with the Oregon Victim Resource Coalition, helping people rebuild their lives the way I rebuilt mine, piece by fractured piece. Sometimes after meetings, I drive past the forensic lab or the justice center or the bridge near my old neighborhood. Not because I'm afraid, but because I need to remind myself of the truth. Survival is not the absence of fear. It's learning to live despite it. And I did. Cut scene. Spring arrived early that year. On a warm Thursday afternoon, I sat at a cafe near Powell's Books, sipping a cup of chamomile tea for the first time in almost a year. Cassie slid into the seat across from me and raised a brow. Brave. I nodded. Healing isn't loud. Sometimes it's just this. She smiled. Then her phone buzzed. She frowned. Viv, you need to see this. She turned the screen toward me. A news alert. Unidentified woman found near Spoken Border. Suspected in multiple identity theft operations. In custody pending federal charges. The image attached was grainy, but the eyes were unmistakable. Cold. Calculating. Smiling. Magdalena. Captured. My heartbeat steadied. Slow, strong, certain. Cassie whispered, "It's over." I shook my head gently, sipping my tea. No, it ended the night I walked out alive. And for the first time since this nightmare began, I finally believed it. Because I wasn't the woman she tried to erase. I was the woman who survived her.